They called the town Redemption, but there was nothing holy about it, just wood and dust and men who lied to themselves under a church bell that hadn't rung in years. By day, Sheriff Jonah Pike wore the law like iron. By night, he broke every oath he ever swore. Her name was Elena Vale, the gambler's daughter, all red silk and razor glances, a rumor made flesh. Some swore her kiss could save a man. Others said it marked his grave. When their hands finally touched beneath a hanging lantern, the town felt it like thunder under the floorboards. Desire crossing a line carved by guns. And before dawn, Redemption would learn that love doesn't keep you safe in the West. It makes you a target. If you love untamed Wild West love stories filled with betrayal, passion, and deadly secrets, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the next tale. The wind came through Main Street like it owned the place, pushing grit across the boards, teasing the lanterns until their flames bowed and shivered. Sheriff Jonah Pike stood on the porch of the jailhouse, thumbs hooked in his gun belt, watching the night like it might confess if he stared long enough. He'd spent the day breaking up a poker brawl and hauling two miners out from under a collapsed shaft. He could still taste chalk dust in the back of his throat. He could still hear the mine timbers crying as they gave way. Redemption had a sound to it, wood complaining, coins kissing, breath catching. Some places sing. Redemption held its breath. He should have gone home. Instead, he crossed the street toward the Golden Finch, a saloon stitched together by stained glass and bad decisions. Behind the swinging doors, a piano fought a losing battle with laughter and lies. Jonah paused. He wasn't a man for crowds. He wasn't a man for softness either. But he was a man, and men do what the dark asks of them. He pushed inside. Heat breathed against his face. Whiskey, smoke, perfume, the memory of trouble. He was halfway to the bar when he saw her. Elena Vale sat where the light made a halo out of dust. Red silk hugged her like a promise. Cards rested lazy in her fingers. Gold winked at her ears like it had learned a trick or two. She didn't look up. She didn't need to. The room had already turned to watch her, and she knew how to make a crowd obey without ever raising her voice. Sheriff. The barkeep slid a glass without waiting to be asked. Thought you swore off nights. Jonah kept his eyes on the woman in red. Knights don't much care about swearing. The barkeep followed his gaze and huffed. Careful there. That one ain't a bottle you finish and set down. Elena gathered the pot with 2 fingers and a smile that made 3 men reach for their wallets just to feel like they still had something inside them. When she finally rose, silk whispered along her thigh. She moved through the room like a hymn that forgot how to be holy. And then she was in front of Jonah, close enough that the scent of orange peel and gun oil put a strange thought in his chest, like fire, being polite. You kept me waiting, Sheriff, she said. He didn't flinch. Didn't know I was invited. You weren't. Her eyes flicked to the badge. But trouble was. Behind her, a man in a gray frock coat watched with the hungry patience of a wolf Axel Dorn, owner of the Finch and of more than a few men besides. If redemption had a spine, Dorn had put his hand on it years ago and never let go. Elena, Jonah said, quiet as a prayer. Why is Dorn watching you like he already owns the next 10 words out of your mouth? Her smile didn't move, but it cooled. Because he thinks everything can be bought, even silence. Piano notes faltered. Somewhere a glass broke and no one laughed. Jonah's hand drifted close to the Colt at his hip, not a threat, just a habit he wore the way other men wore wedding rings. Dorn approached, boots whispering across the boards. Sheriff. His voice was smooth as varnish. Your presence raises the tone of the room. Funny, Jonah said. I was thinking the same of a gallows. Dorn's eyes slid to Elena and back. Miss Vale is under my protection, which means she is under my rules. Elena tilted her head. Axel, darling, the sheriff didn't come to learn your rules. He came because I asked him to. You didn't ask. Jonas said, I'm asking now. She stepped closer. Walked me home. It was the kind of sentence you don't survive if you accept in the wrong town. Dorn's face didn't change, but the men at the faro table straightened like dogs tasting blood in the air. Home, Jonas said. Is where? Elena's eyes flashed. Anywhere not owned by him. Dorn's smile never reached his eyes. Miss Vale is dramatic this evening. Sheriff, redemption does not need another corpse on Main Street. Be reasonable. Decline. Jonah had been reasonable all his life. Reasonable got boys out of mines and drunks out of gutters. But reasonable had never known what to do with a woman like Elena standing 3 inches from his heart. He finished his whiskey, set the glass down with a sound that made the piano go quiet again, and offered Elena his arm. She took it. They walked out under a sky cut with stars and smoke. The night folded around them, warm and watchful. Elena's hand was light on his sleeve. Her voice, when it came, wasn't. He killed my father, she said. Jonah didn't stumble, but the world tilted. Dorn? She nodded once. Not with a bullet, with debt, with a contract written to bleed. The kind of murder that's legal in towns like this. Why tell me now? Because I'm leaving redemption at dawn, she said. And if I don't, Dorn will make sure I never leave at all. They turned down Harper Lane, where lamps burned low, and houses leaned together like old men swapping sins. Elena stopped beside the churchyard gate. The bell above them hung crooked, rope frayed to a ghost. He wants me to sign over what's left of my father's stake. The deed's nothing but paper and memory, but it's the last thing that's mine. And men like Dorn don't allow last things. Jonah studied her. The oath he wore had sharp edges. If I help you leave, he'll call it abetting theft. If you don't, she said, he'll call it consent. A shout burst from the Finch boots, chairs, a voice like gravel dragged across tin. Jonah turned. 3 of Dorn's men spilled into the street, eyes hot with orders they were too stupid to question. Elena didn't flinch. He won't let me go, she said softly. Not unless someone tears the leash. Jonah's hand found his Colt. Then tonight, he said, we find out whether redemption still remembers how to breathe. He moved Elena behind him as the first man reached for his gun. The wind rose, and the church bell, silent for 2 long years, gave one ragged warning note. The leash Dorn keeps isn't just men and money, it's secrets. And Elena is carrying one that can get them both killed before midnight. The first shot chewed splinters from a hitching post and sent the horses clattering backward, reins screaming against iron rings. Jonah didn't waste breath on warnings. He drew and fired once. Clean. A message that hummed along Main Street. The law remembers how to aim. The lead thug Blake. A slab of a man with shoulders like a barn door jerked sideways and lost his nerve quicker than blood. The second, a ferret-eyed kid who thought violence was a shortcut to manhood, flinched, then hit it with a grin. The third, lanky, patient, the kind who waited for someone else to die, first shifted his coat back to show the butt of his pistol like a handshake. Evening, Sheriff, the lanky one called. Mr. Dorn says Miss Vale forgot her manners. Mr. Dorn can send a letter, Jonah said. Mr. Dorn likes faster mail. Behind Jonah, Elena's breath steadied into something that wasn't fear so much as resolve hardened by practice. Harlan, she said to the lanky man, Tell Axel I said no. Harlan's grin thinned. You already told him that last winter. Winter didn't last. Jonah stepped off the boardwalk and into the street. He didn't draw on men unless he meant to finish what he started. But posture was its own weapon. He set his boots where the lanterns made a cross of light and shadow. You got 3 choices, he said. Walk, drop iron and talk, or find out if that bell rings twice. Harlan's eyes flicked up at the crooked bell. The bell's tired, Sheriff. So is this town. Then it ought to sleep, Jonah said. Go home. For a breath, no one moved. Then Blake decided he needed to be the loudest in the room. His hand blurred. Jonah's did too. 2 shots split the night so close together they sounded like one argument. Blake's hat left his head and learned what a bullet does when it hasn't got anyone to love. He swore and stumbled backward. Scalp grazed. Pride. Ventilated. Harlan didn't smile this time. He tipped his head. A soldier acknowledging another. Tomorrow then, he said, and pulled the ferret-eyed kid back by the collar. Mr. Dorn does business in daylight. Tell him law does it whenever it needs to, Jonah said. They retreated badly, muttering about doctors and hats and the price of being stupid. The doors of the Golden Finch swung them back into the warmth like a mouth swallowing its own. Elena exhaled. The sound shook like she'd been holding up the church with her shoulders. You didn't have to do that, she said. Didn't have to, Jonah answered. Wanted to. They moved again, keeping to the dark edges of the street until the Finch sat behind them like a bad story, with too many chapters. Jonah knew he should take Elena to the jailhouse, 4 walls, iron bars, a rule book to lean against. But bringing her there would smash the line he'd sworn to keep between his badge and his wanting. Instead, he turned toward the freight office where the night clerk, old Mrs. Greeley, slept light as a cat and loud as a train. Jonah knocked. The woman opened, hair in pins, eyes like a hawk's. Sheriff Pike, she rasped. You bring me trouble or money? Neither, Jonah said. I bring you sense. Miss Vale needs a ticket on the Dawn stage. Greeley looked Elena up and down, lips twitching in a way that meant she liked what she saw and didn't trust a lick of it. Stage don't like passengers with wolves on their heels. Wolves don't like what they choke on, Jonah said. Placing $2 silver on the desk, Greeley slid a ledger across. Elena signed. The ink came out steadier than Jonah expected. When they stepped back onto the porch, the night had changed quieter, but the kind of quiet that listens, not rests. Jonah turned to Elena. Dawn, he said. Travel light. Take the long road east. There's a coachman in Sable Ridge owes me a favor. I'll wire ahead. Elena studied his face like a map she meant to memorize. You can walk away now, she said softly. Pretend tonight never happened. It'll save you. From what? He asked. From me. It should have been funny. It wasn't. The words landed with the weight of a truth nobody wants. Some people don't arrive in your life, they detonate. Jonah didn't answer. He let the silence say the thing he didn't know how to carry with grammar. Elena's eyes warmed, then cooled, like she'd seen hope try to crawl out of him and thought better of stepping on it. Dorn won't wait for dawn, she said. He'll cut the road. Then we won't take a road, Jonah said. He walked her around back where the freight wagon slept under canvas. He untied a bay mare from a shadow and patted her neck. She'll carry you quiet. Cut through the creek bed. Follow the cottonwoods. Keep the moon on your left shoulder. Don't stop till you smell the tannery in Sable Ridge. It stinks like sin, but it means you're close. Elena touched the mare's nose. The animal blinked slow, as if she understood being trusted with more than cargo. And you? Elena asked. I'm going to have a talk with Axel Dorn about the limits of ownership. That talk ends with a coffin. Maybe, Jonah said. Maybe it ends with a contract catching fire. Elena put a boot in the stirrup, then hesitated. There's something you should know before you go burn down a man's paper palace, she said. Say it. My father's deed, what's left of it, names a partner. Not Dorn. Someone else. Someone who will side with the highest bidder if he hears I'm running. Name. Her mouth flattened. Sheriff Amos Hale. The name belonged to the county seat 2 days south, a man with a badge that shined like judgment and friends who didn't sweat. Jonah felt his jaw tighten. That's a rich kind of trouble. I didn't pick it. Elena swung into the saddle. I was born into it. Jonah stepped back. The mare snorted and turned. Elena gathered the reins, then reached down, and, for reasons he'd feel later, pressed her fingers to his wrist. If I die, she said, bury me where the wind sings. If I live, I'll owe you something I don't know how to pay. Live, Jonah said. We'll argue about the bill later. She smiled like a knife, learning how to forgive, then kicked the mare into the dark. Hooves swallowed distance. Red silk vanished into black. Jonah stood alone on the freight porch and counted his mistakes. The number didn't matter. The last one always weighs the most. Behind him, footsteps scraped. He turned and found Harlan leaning in the alley's shadow, with his hands empty and his voice full of confidence he hadn't earned. Mr. Dorn would appreciate your company, Sheriff. Jonah cocked his head. He can make an appointment like anyone else. He did. It's now. Harlan's smile widened, and, with no drama at all, 3 rifles lifted behind him, black mouths yawning in the lamplight. Axel figures you just stole something of his, Harlan said. He's generous, though. He'll let you bring it back. Can't bring back what he never owned, Jonah said. Harlan pointed his chin down the alley. That right there is an argument you can make directly to him. Or we see how many times the church bell can ring before it falls. Jonah breathed slow. He thought of Elena riding the creek bed and of a county sheriff with clean boots and dirty hands. He thought of ownership like a sickness that turns everything it touches into a receipt. He stepped into the alley. The wind rose, and the finch exhaled smoke, like a dragon learning to pray. Dorn's parlor, the price of ownership, and the first crack in Jonah's oath, because some laws are built to keep the right people poor and the wrong people safe. The parlor of the Golden Finch was too quiet for a saloon, too soft for a town like Redemption. Dorn kept it that way. Velvet curtains strangling the windows, carpets heavy enough to muffle boots, whiskey locked behind glass, so the men who wanted it had to look at their own reflection before they drank. Jonah Pike stood just inside the door, hat in hand, badge catching the low light. Across the room, Axel Dorn reclined like a preacher who'd never believed in God. His coat was gray. His smile was polished. His hands were clean in ways a miner's never were. But his eyes were pits where lawmen went to die of thirst. You make a habit of stealing from me, Sheriff? Dorn asked. Jonah set his hat on the sideboard. A woman ain't a coin purse, Dorn. She's worth more, Dorn said smoothly. A man can buy land with her signature. He can buy silence with her favor. He can buy loyalty with her lips. He poured himself whiskey. Didn't offer Jonah any. You think I don't know where she's running? Jonah didn't blink. If you knew, you wouldn't be asking me, Dorn chuckled. Fair. But I don't need to know the road. I own the county that builds it. Sheriff Amos Hale owes me more than silver. He owes me the kind of debt that bends knees. Jonah's gut turned cold. You've got your hand in Hale's pocket? In his pocket. His pulpit. His wife's jewelry box. Dorn swirled the glass. So you see, Elena Vale can't outrun me. She signs, she stays alive. She refuses, she dies. Simple math. But then you ruin the equation. Jonah stepped closer, boots heavy on Dorn's carpet. Equations change. Dorn set the glass down without a sound. I admire you, Pike. You've worn that badge like armor. But even armor rusts. You could walk out of here with pockets lined. Enough silver to buy your own county. Hell, your own state. All I ask is you bring her back. Jonah's jaw tightened. You want me to sell her? I want you to sell your oath, Dorn said. Voice quiet as the creak of a coffin lid. Everybody does sooner or later. Why not profit? Jonah leaned down until Dorn could see the years carved into his face. Because some of us still bury our dead ourselves. Dorn's smile frayed. Careful, Sheriff. Law don't bury you when you fall. It forgets you. The door opened. Harlan entered, dragging the air of the alley behind him. 3 riflemen flanked him, shadows heavy on their shoulders. Boss, Harlan said. The stage leaves at dawn. Sheriff thought he was clever sending her that way. Jonah's blood spiked. Elena, the creek bed, the mare. Dorn leaned back, savoring. You see, secrets have a way of galloping home. Touch her, Jonah said, voice like a drawn blade. And you'll find out if velvet burns as easy as pine. For the first time, Dorn's temper showed thin, sharp. A crack under porcelain. You think redemption belongs to you? It belongs to me. It always has. He snapped his fingers. The riflemen lifted their barrels. Iron teeth gleamed in the lamplight. The Finch held its breath. Jonah's hand hovered near his Colt. Not yet. Not here. He counted rifles, angles, exits. One chance if the curtains caught fire. Another if the whiskey glass shattered. He let his hand fall away from the gun. Not tonight. Survival was the law now. You can kill me, Jonah said. But she'll still be gone. Dorn's grin returned, smug as a snake. Not if Hale takes her. That's the beauty of ownership, Sheriff. There's always another hand to hold the leash. Jonah knew he should walk. Knew the longer he stayed, the more his oath rotted. But when he turned, Dorn's words followed like barbed wire. You can't save her. Not from me. Not from herself. The West doesn't keep lovers, Pike. It buries them. Outside, the night slapped Jonah with grit and moonlight. He breathed it like medicine, bitter and raw. The street was empty except for the crooked bell that swayed though no wind touched it. He pulled his hat on and headed for the jailhouse. There were telegrams to send, allies to beg, debts to call in. If Hale was in this, Elena was riding into a trap bigger than Dorn's reach. And Jonah Pike was running out of ways to break his own rules. Inside the jail, he lit a lantern and spread a county map across the desk. Sable Ridge, Hale's jurisdiction. Elena would ride straight into the viper's teeth. Unless he rode first, the lantern hissed. The map curled at the edges. Jonah's hand trembled not with fear, but with the knowledge that every step closer to Elena was a step farther from the law. The badge on his chest felt heavier than iron, felt like a noose. He whispered into the empty room. Law or love? The bell outside tolled once, no hand on its rope. Jonah rides into Hale's county, where law is bought, love is outlawed, and Elena's secret threatens to turn the desert into her grave. The road to Sable Ridge cut through canyons that looked like jaws half shut, teeth of stone waiting to snap. Jonah Pike rode fast but not reckless, the bay mare's breath white in the cold dawn. Every hoofbeat pressed time thinner. He could almost see Elena riding ahead, red silk aflame against the dark, unaware that the fire she fled was waiting at the next horizon. By mid-morning, the town crouched before him, Sable Ridge, seat of the county, where the law was polished, brass hiding rust. Jonah slowed at the outskirts. Smoke rose from chimneys. A church bell rang proper here, sharp and smug. It didn't matter. A bell can't wash blood off its own rope. The sheriff's office sat on the main street like a warning. Whitewashed boards, tall windows, a flag snapping overhead. Jonah dismounted, tied the mare, and pushed inside. Sheriff Amos Hale looked up from his desk. His uniform was crisp, his boots unscuffed, his mustache waxed to a cruel point. If Jonah was dust and grit, Hale was polish and parade. But under that shine, Jonah saw hunger. "Well, redemption's stray dog," Hale drawled. "What wind blows you this far east?" Jonah shut the door behind him. "You've been doing business with Dorn." Hale's smile thinned. "Dorn does business with everyone. Keeps the county lively. He's trying to put a leash on Elena Vale." "Ah, the gambler's daughter." Hale leaned back. "Pretty little thing. Dangerous in her own way. Dorn wants her deed. I want her testimony. Either way, she belongs on paper." Jonah stepped closer. "She doesn't belong to anyone. That's where you're wrong." Hale tapped his badge. "In this county, ownership is the law. And the law says her father's debts pass down like heirlooms. She's collateral, Pike. Nothing more." Jonah's hands curled. "You're not a sheriff. You're Dorn's bookkeeper." Hale's eyes flashed. "Careful. You're out of your jurisdiction." "I didn't come here to argue territory," Jonah said. "I came to make sure Elena leaves it alive." Hale laughed. It was a cold sound, like coins poured into a grave. "Alive? You think she'll make it past my deputies? Half the ridge would sell her for the price of a saddle, the other half would do it for the story." He leaned forward, voice low. "You can't fight the tide, Pike. Better men drowned trying." Jonah met his gaze. "Maybe I'm not better." They stared across the desk until the air felt like gunpowder waiting for a spark. Then Hale sat back and waved a hand. "You're wasting daylight. She'll ride right into my arms. And when she does, I'll make sure Dorn pays for the privilege of keeping her." Ownership cuts both ways. Jonah turned and left before his oath cracked under the weight of his fists. Outside, the street baked under a sun climbing too high. Children played with hoops. A preacher tipped his hat. Normal life pretending it wasn't built on bones. He found Elena's mare tied outside the stage office. His chest tightened. Too soon. Too fast. She'd beaten him here. Inside, the clerk shuffled papers without looking up. "Stage East leaves in 10. Already booked a fare. Pretty lady. Red dress." Sheriff Hale himself said to see her safe. Jonah swallowed a curse. He pushed through to the boarding yard. Elena stood by the coach, veil pulled low, satchel in hand. Relief flared in her eyes when she saw him, but only for a heartbeat. Deputies ringed the coach, rifles easy in their arms, badges glinting like teeth. "Jonah," she breathed. "It's a trap." Hale appeared on the platform, voice carrying like a sermon. "Miss Vale, you're under protective custody. For your own good, of course. The law can't let you wander off with secrets worth killing for." Jonah moved toward her, but two deputies stepped in, barrels rising. He stopped, dust swirling around his boots. "She's not yours to cage," he said. Hale smirked. "She's the county's, which makes her mine to keep safe or sell safe." Elena's voice cut the yard. "You sold my father's life. You'll not sell mine." Hale's mustache twitched. Strong words for a woman with no gun. Jonah's hand twitched near his Colt. Elena caught his eye, shook her head. "Don't. Not yet." She slid her satchel open, just enough for Jonah to glimpse papers inside. Old, brittle, stained. "Her father's deed," she whispered as deputies closed around her. "There's another name on it, a partner. If I can prove it, Dorn and Hale both fall." Jonah's blood chilled. Proof was a rare coin in the West. Proof could topple empires or get you killed before sundown. The stage driver snapped reins. The coach lurched forward. Deputies climbed on, rifles watching Jonah until distance made them bold. Hale tipped his hat, smile as sharp as a gallows blade. Careful riding home, Pike. Roads can be unfriendly. Jonah watched Elena vanish in a cloud of dust and law. His oath screamed. His heart screamed louder. He mounted the bay mare, every muscle wired for the chase. Sable Ridge had swallowed her, but it hadn't chewed yet, and Jonah Pike was about to teach Amos Hale what happens when a man mistakes love for leverage. The chase through canyon and creek, a deed that could set the West on fire, and Jonah's final choice oath, or Elena. The dust cloud from the stagecoach still hung in the air like smoke from a cannon when Jonah Pike spurred the bay mare hard. Hooves struck sparks on stone, her lungs wheezing, but he asked more, because Elena's life was ahead, and Hale's gall was at his back. The canyon cut narrow as a throat. Shadows knifed across the trail. The coach jolted around bends, deputies riding guard, rifles braced. Jonah lowered himself in the saddle, teeth bared against the wind. He didn't need to catch the coach outright, just close enough to disrupt. A rifle cracked. Rock splintered by his ear. Deputies had spotted him. Jonah angled the mare up a side ridge, loose shale sliding under hooves. He rose above the trail, the coach rattling below like a beetle in a tin. He drew his Colt, thumbed the hammer back. The first deputy fell from his saddle with a cry, rifle spinning into dust. Another swung his weapon upward, but Jonah fired again, horse reared. Rider toppled. The stage lurched as panicked animals strained against leather. Inside, Elena clutched the satchel tight, eyes flicking toward the canyon rim. She saw Jonah silhouetted against the sun, her outlaw angel. Grit and oath made flesh. Hale, riding rear guard, snarled. He barked orders. Deputies spurred to flank Jonah's ridge, cutting him off. Jonah kicked free, galloping higher. Shots rang wild. One grazed his arm, burning hot, blood-soaking sleeve. He didn't stop. Couldn't. The canyon forked ahead, left toward the river, right toward Sable Ridge mines. The coach took the left. Jonah gambled everything and cut down sharp, rocks showering. The mare slid but held. He hit the trail parallel, now only yards away. "Jump!" he roared. His voice ripped the canyon. Elena heard it. Deputies grabbed for her, but she slammed the satchel into one's face, kicked the door, and hurled herself into the air. Jonah leaned, stretching his arm until bones threatened to tear. Fingers caught silk. The mare staggered but kept upright. Elena landed against him, breathless, clutching the satchel like scripture. Behind them, the coach fishtailed, drivers screaming. Deputies scrambled. Hale's curses echoed stone to stone. Jonah didn't slow. He drove the mare toward the river bend, bullets nipping the dust. Elena clung to him, voice fierce in his ear. "The deed names a partner, Hale. It's signed. My father tried to buy free of Dorn, but Hale bound him instead. Hale killed him to bury it." Jonah's jaw locked. So the badge was blood-stained deeper than even he guessed. They burst into the open flats by the river. The deputies thundered after, but Hale himself surged to the front, pistol gleaming. "You can't outrun the law, Pike!" Jonah wheeled the mare, setting Elena down behind a boulder. He faced Hale in the open, Colt loose at his side. "You're no law. Just another rustler in clean boots," Hale sneered. Big words for a man about to die. They stood 20 paces apart. Sun burned overhead. The river whispered between them like a clock ticking down. Elena's voice carried from behind the rock. "Jonah, don't, he's not worth it." But Jonah had carried his oath too long. Hale's smirk was the face of every lawman who took bribes, every corpse buried without prayer. every vow that rotted in dust. The draw was quick, too quick to think. 2 shots cracked as one. Silence after, Jonah staggered, smoke curling from his Colt. Hale dropped to his knees, shock written in wax across his face. His badge fell first, clattering like tin and dirt. Then the man toppled forward, lifeless. The deputies pulled up short. Law without a master. Some tossed badges into the dust, spurred off. Others rode back toward town, silent as shadows. The canyon swallowed their retreat. Jonah holstered his Colt with a trembling hand. Blood from his arm ran into his glove, sticky. But he turned to Elena. She rose from behind the rock, eyes wide with fear and awe. "You're bleeding," she whispered. "Not the first time," he rasped. "But maybe the last that matters." She held out the satchel. "With this deed, Dorne's empire falls. Hale's name binds him. Together, they burn." Jonah looked at the parchment edges peeking from the worn leather. Proof. Enough to shake counties. Enough to put a rope on Dorne's neck. Enough to buy her freedom, he exhaled. "You carry it. You see it through. I only know how to fight." Elena stepped closer, pressing the satchel against his chest. "You're wrong. You know how to keep an oath." Their foreheads touched, dust and sweat mingling. For a moment the West was silent. No gunfire, no debts, only 2 souls finding shelter in each other. The river rolled on, careless, eternal. Jonah finally smiled. Thin, weary, but real. "Then let's finish this. Together." Hand in hand, they led the mare downriver. Deed safe, love unspoken, but louder than gunfire. Behind them lay Hale's corpse, a badge rusting in dust. Ahead lay Dorne, an empire trembling on parchment. And above all, the West itself wide, cruel, but for once, holding a sliver of hope. Thank you for listening to Western Romance Stories. If you enjoyed this tale of love and danger in the Wild West, give the video a like. Leave your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more untamed stories. Until next time, may your odds hold and your heart stay brave.